If you are here because you're a Makita fan, then welcome back. If you are here because you're a fan of Sanders, then make sure you check out my video I did last night. I'll put a link up here. That was the Merca Sanders I did, basically the Merca version of these. And I got some Merca discs here so that we can put them on these Makitas to sort of compare as much as possible to that. I was hoping to have them at the same time, but it didn't quite work out like that. I filmed the Merca one quite some time ago, and it is up in that top corner there, like I said. But we're not here to talk about that today. We are here to talk about the new range of XGT Sanders, finally from Makita. These are the first XGT Sanders that Makita have put out. So on the bench today we have the BO001CG, the BO003CG, and the BO005CG. Whoa, wait up, Tools. Why are you putting a C in there? Shouldn't it be a BO001G? Or the other 40 volt XGT stuff ends with a G. Why on earth would it have CG? Well, because the G stands for the 40 volt platform, the XGT. So it stands for that 40 volt battery that we all know. But if you look carefully at these, there's nowhere to put that battery. They are not big enough to put a battery on, are they? So they have a cord and battery. Say what? Yes, that's right. The C stands for cord. So we have a cord going to a G. So C to G. This is the first time Makita have done this with an XGT tool, and we will soon find out whether it's a good idea or not. But first, let's take a closer look at the Sanders we have here on the bench and the Sanders that aren't on the bench. Now, these are the sort of tools that I imagine are going to vary quite a lot in different parts of the world. Some parts of the world they will only import certain ones. Why is this 1, this 3, this 5? What happened to 2 and 4? I'm guessing number 2 here is a 150mm pad, whereas this is 125, and the same here with number 4. Well, hang on a minute, why are these two the same? Well, they're not the same. This is a 3mm orbit, and this one is a 5mm orbit. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So all three of these tools have variable speed dial down here. They have AWS on the other side, and they have the starter button on the front, and it's just a push it once, it goes on, push it again, it goes off. When it's going, you disconnect the battery, you put the battery back on, it won't start by itself. They're all the same at this end here too. This is where, of course, you would hook your hose on. It comes with this, which clips on, sort of locks on with a twist. Unfortunately, it doesn't like rotate and won't swivel while you're using it. It's locked in place. Would have been nice if that had some sort of swivel in it, just so that you don't get all tangled up with your hose. As well as that, you of course get a bag, which is just a friction fit like so. And the bag, once it's on there, can be clipped off like so to empty. And the power cord just clips on nice and easy like that too. Push the buttons on the side to release, goes on nice and easy. Nice and smooth, piece of cake. There's a little arrow on the top to align with the top so you know you haven't got it up the wrong way, even though the screw should be a bit of a dead giveaway. So all those features are the same on these three models and presumably the other 4. So what are the other models apart from the two 150s as well as the 125s here? There will also be a detail sander, you know, like a delta sander with a pointy bit on the end. That will be number 6, and number 7 will be a third sheet sander rather than this small sheet sander here. But those will have to wait for another video because they're not available yet. And what about the availability of these? Well, in this part of the world, in New Zealand, they'll be out in the next few weeks from when this video goes live. If you're heading down to field days, maybe they'll be there in time for that. Hopefully they will. Be nice to see them down there, along with a few other new things Makita have got coming along. Right, let's now have a closer look at the tools. We'll start off with these two. Random orbital sanders are probably the sander I use the most, and 125 is the size I use the most. I find it's the easiest to maneuver, and you can get the right amount of pressure on it, a bit better than a 150. Depends on what you're doing, of course, but I do a lot of narrow stuff, and so the 125 is good, so you don't have a lot of pad overhanging, which creates more dust if you have that. Now these sanding pads here have the holes in them to help with the dust extraction, so that's nice, hopefully better than the old 18 volt one. And let's have a look at the pattern on the bottom, shall we? They do come with one of these net pads, so you'll get a net sanding disc like this in the box in this part of the world, maybe not everywhere, don't know. And you'll also get the interface pad here. Why two pads, you say? Well, this one basically just protects this one, because if you're using these sort of net pads, the Velcro bits can come through here, and if you're pushing and sanding away too long, you can end up wearing these off, and then it's useless. Not only that, it gets full of dust, whereas this helps stop that dust and helps protect your main pad from getting destroyed, because it's much cheaper and easier to just replace one of these, because these often come with the sanding discs themselves. So if we look at the pattern of the holes, we've got what used to be what I would call the standard Makita holes, like that. So they've got those, plus there is an extra set around the outside as well. Not quite as many as the Merca. I'm going to keep comparing it to the Merca ones, because that's sort of industry standard sort of thing, you know, that's like top of the line. So let's compare it to that. Didn't line that up too well, did I? So the 5 and the 3 both have the same pads. This has got a non-net one on it, just your standard sort of pad there. It's a very soft pad that we've got here. You can be careful when you pull this off. It's sort of tugging away at the main pad a bit. Just need to hold that up a bit, really, when you pull that off, maybe, because that, yeah, that's very soft. Good for doing certain things, rounded things, things that aren't quite dead flat. Now, why has one got a 3 on it and one got a 5 on it? Well, that is the orbit. So when you're sanding, it's going round in circles, of course. But it's also off center, basically. So instead of just spinning, it's going like that at the same time. So the 3mm is 3mm ones of those, like that, and 5mm is like that. And some other brands, like the Merca for instance, do up to an 8mm as well. So the bigger the orbit number, the quicker it will remove material. This will remove material much quicker than the 3, but this will give you a nicer finish. This is more likely to leave swirl marks. Ideally, you'd have both of them. You use this one on the rough stuff, get it down to a fairly smooth finish, and then use this one to finish things off with finer grip paper and that smaller orbit. And then we have the sheet sander, which comes with a net disc as well, not a disc pad I suppose, and the interface pad as well. As you can see, this one already well used, plenty of holes in there. This is a 3mm orbit as well, and the sanding sheets that you'll use on that are 130 long by 80mm wide. Right, I've got a bunch of stuff to sand. Oh, before I do that, I'll quickly just show you this stuff, eh? So we've got some other little Makita bits on here to show you. I know you guys like seeing all different things. How about this? A switchblade flick knife or something, you know? Ooh. So this is just a, as you can see, holds not many, 10, comes with some Phillips bits, some posi drive and some Torx drive, and then in the bottom bit here we have a 50mm extension thing to put them in. I'll put links to that down in the description if you want one of those. I don't know how many places in the world sell these, but I'll see if I can find some links and bung them down there. And then these cool little ones, which, you know, just look cool because they're like the batteries, right? And you push the button on the front, whee, and she springs open. Nifty. Inside this one, a whole lot of little short bits there. Heaps of Torx bits in there, which I like. That's one of the reasons I got it. But there is lots of different variations of these. But this one, Torx and Phillips drive bits, and the extension bit holder in the front there. Then there are ones like this that are empty. You can put your own bits in there. And there's ones that come with 50mm bits in them. There's all sorts of different ones, but they're only sold in certain markets. I'm not sure exactly where, so whatever links I can find I will put down in the description. If I haven't put them down there, please let me know. Sometimes I forget these things and one of you reminds me and then I chuck them in there, but it might be a bit late and some people might miss out, so if they're not there, let me know. Right, let's go sand something. So when it comes to putting your battery somewhere, it has a hook on it here, as you can see. So if you lift up your pants, you could hook it on your belt like so, but I think I'm going to stick it in my little coin pocket here, or watch pocket, or whatever that little pocket is on your jeans. So it clips on there. Then, so that your cord here doesn't dangle, you can clip it in the side of the holder. Also on the cord you have this strap and clip, so you can have it bundled up if you don't want it too long. And then we have, of course, the end which clips in there, and away we go. If you watched my XGT chainsaw video last week, you will have seen me rip this piece of wood here, this bit of macrocarpa. Now I'm going to have a go at this with the sander. So you can see she's pretty rough because it's been cut with a chainsaw. Now I could plane it all first a bit like I have here, but I want to see how long it would take to sort of get down some of these grooves here. Got a 2.5 fresh off the charger, hooked up to the BO001CG, the 125mm with an 80 grit 5mm orbit. We'll start on the highest speed, being 10,000 RPM, and it goes down to number 1, which is 6,000. But yeah, I think we're going to need it on full whack. And I have it hooked up to the trusty VC004G with the AWS, so it'll turn on and off while I'm sanding. That has taken that down super quick. Turn off please, back. Thank you. That was much quicker than I thought it was going to. I'm going to move over to the other side and give you a real good close-up of that. Those were some very deep chainsaw grooves, and that has taken that back nicely and nice and quick, and very little dust extraction working super good so far. Let's try it now with the dust bag instead of the vac, so I might as well turn this off. Well, no complaints with that so far. Seem to be picking it up nicely. Let's have a look. This was empty when I started. Wow, holy shit! That was a lot of dust that just collected. Pretty impressive. It's cutting through this macrocarpa so fast. Presumably combination of a good sander and some good sanding discs. Right, I've done some of the planing that I should have done before. Let's carry on sanding. Let's do a stall test. I'll do a stall test down the end here. You still see that? Yeah, stall test over here. Okay. Right, you ain't easily going to stall it, that's for sure. Really impressed so far with the dust collection without a vac. Wow, collects a lot of sawdust in such a quick period of time. You don't need a vac, don't use it, I say. And that dust collection is far superior to the crappy dust collection on the 18-volt random orbital sander. Should get that out and have a play with that, eh? We'll do that in the next thing I sand. But let me just finish this off. Look how deep this is. I mean, this is millimeters deep. That's several millimeters deep, that. Let's see how we go. Takes that down so quick. A little bit of dust starting to appear here on the sander, probably because we're not using the vac. Don't know how long I've been sanding, but let's have a look at the battery here. What do we got? 1 bar, as you can see. I haven't actually got it on my belt because, well, I didn't need to for this, so it was nice just having it sitting there on the sawhorse. But as you can see, the tool is rather dusty. So even though I thought this was quite nice at first, and it is collecting a lot of stuff, but it is a little bit, it gets pushed around by the cord a bit, and it sort of, because it's friction fit, comes away a little bit, and a little bit of dust starts getting out of there. So it's been a bit coming out of there. Well packed in the bottom there. It definitely collects a lot though. Holy, it's collecting, you know, 95% of it, but there is still, there's a heap more still in there. Wow. It has collected a lot in the last 10 minutes. Wowee. It is removing so much material. I'm not sure how long that battery lasted, but as you see, we're down to 1 bar, so I don't know. We're getting pretty smooth here though. The board's looking pretty good. Another 2.5 amp hour battery and it'll be done, no problem, I would assume. I'm going to do a little bit more with this grit, and then I think we'll change to the 3mm to smooth it off nicely at the end. I do kind of need to do something with the outside of it too though. To give you some idea of the material removal, let's take a look how much dust comes out the back of this thing. Well, I think that's looking pretty swish. Feels nice, came up good. I do recommend though, if you are not using a vac, to wear a mask. A lot of that probably came from when I didn't have the bag on either though. I was going to have a go at this now with the 3mm orbit, and I probably will, but I don't know if I'll bother showing that on camera because you're not going to see much. If you haven't already got one of these, do yourself a favour, look down in the description, watch the review, buy one from one of the affiliate links or whatever. These are super handy. Look at that, like a brand new arm again. I have the 5mm orbit and the 3mm orbit here. We have two 4 amp hour batteries straight off the charger, and I'm going to have a go at removing this sort of, see this shitty looking mouldy stuff on this piece of 6x2 here. See if we can spruce that up, make it look a little nicer. I'll give it 1 minute with each sander on a different section of the board, and we'll see how much they remove. Each sander has a fresh 80 grit Merca pad on there. So yeah, 3, 2, 1, go. Now that was pretty good. I think I am happy with that. 1 minute, and yeah, it took most of that off. Look at that. That's what it looked like. 1 minute, 1.2 meters. Pretty good. So let's see how much material is removed with the smaller 3mm orbit. Well, I think that was a pretty good test to show that the 3mm is going to remove the material much slower, because as you can see here, we have still a piece I never even got to, which is equivalent to, well, around half of the area we were doing. And I didn't quite sort of get this bit done either, finished at the end there. So 3mm, 5mm. So 5mm, much quicker, but higher vibration, bit noisier too I think. But they were both on full speed, as you can see here, indicated by the number 5. And the 3 as well, in case you don't believe me, is on number 5. Right, we're going to do that same test again. We've got a new pad on the 5mm orbit, the BO001CG, and we've got a new pad on this, the good old-fashioned 18-volt random orbital sander. This is possibly the first battery random orbital sander on the market. It's been around a very long time. I don't recall any other one before that, and I will be running it with a freshly charged 5 amp hour battery. And of course, once again, we have a even skankier looking bit of wood this time by the looks. 18 volt on this side, 40 volt on this side. Who's going to come out on top? Let's go. 1 minute. Okay, so that piece of wood, like I said, much harder to sand than the previous one. Ugh, look how skanky it is. So, removed it pretty quick though, but took a little bit more work. I left a piece on the end there just so you can see what it looked like there. So how well will the 18 volt do doing its side? This is going to be interesting. This is the test I want to see. The 18 volt has 11,000 RPM, so surely this will remove it 10% faster than the 40 volt. Sure it will, Tools. Let's go. Well, that was rather disappointing from the 18 volt. I knew it was going to be a thrashing, but I didn't know how much of a thrashing. So here's I was trying to get the 18 volt that I wrote on there off, and it didn't even get that off properly. Yeah, didn't really get to this half of the board. Didn't get to finish off this end. Yeah. So 18 volt. Dun 40 volt. I would estimate that material removal when compared to the 5mm orbit at about 4 times better. So this 4 times better at removing material than this with the exact same pads on, remember, discs. And comfort wise, this much nicer to use. Having that lower center of gravity, much better, much more comfortable on the hands, less vibration, easier to hold than the old school 18 volt. Sorry buddy, might be time for you to retire. What do you reckon? Let's go back to the bench and have a look at some of the other Sanders as well. So that is a lot of Sanders. It's hard to get them all in shot. So where are we going to go from here? Let's start with this, the quarter sheet 18 volt here. This was released as several different models in different countries. In Japan, for instance, it was several models. I'm not sure, it was 2 or 3 models. In this part of the world, they just gave you all the different plates, so you could just use the one body and change it out to whatever you want. So you've got like the quarter sheet, this large one here, which you can fold over both sides, so you can do underneath, similar to this, how we've got this Delta Sander point here, which you can do top and bottom. And then it's got like a quarter sheet one there, or you can have this quarter sheet one on there. There's lots of different options. This one here is not quite quarter sheet, and not that one either. So in between. Now I haven't used that much, but it is a nice little sander, and that is the closest equivalent to that. The thing you're going to notice with all these new XGT sanders is they're all basically going to look the same design, much more comfortable. The lower center of gravity makes it feel much more natural, easier to control, less vibration, just nicer sanders. And so the Delta one of the XGT will be the BO006CG, and maybe I will do a review of that and compare it to this once we get that available here. This is the third sheet 18 volt, which is a rather odd looking thing. This one will be the BO007CG when they finally release that. It might be the last one that comes out. So once again, maybe we will review that and compare the two once that is available. Now you saw the 18 volt one here. I think it's time to retire the old girl, because these new ones, the 3mm orbit is about twice as quick at removing material as this, and the 5mm is about 4 times faster than this, roughly, you know, in my quick little experiments that I've been doing. And just a general tip when it comes to sanding, if you're new to it or something, these sort of new, this one here actually comes with the, if you buy one of these in New Zealand, you will get the backing interface pad, and you'll get a 120 grit one of these. So these sanding nets come in lots of different styles, made by lots of manufacturers these days, and there's lots of different patterns. This one's sort of a cross between a standard one and a net one. I find these are quicker at cutting, and they don't clog up the same, and they last longer than your traditional ones like this, and they suck up the dust way better than these do. So if you've never used one of these mesh net sanding type discs, do yourself a favor and grab some of those. These Merca ones, this 80 grit one, nice and aggressive, rips stuff off nice and quick. Clear all that out of the way for the moment and talk a little bit more about the specifics of these XGT tools and what you get with them and why they are good. So each one, maybe they'll be slightly different depending on where you live, but in this part of the world, and most of the world I'm assuming, you're going to get the dust extractor attachment, you're going to get the dust bag, you're going to get the tool of course, you're going to get the interface pad at the back there, you're going to get one disc, and you are going to get your power lead. Now when it comes to the dust collection, you saw me use the dust bag. The dust bag does leak a little bit, as you can see. If you're doing a small area, not so bad. If you're doing a lot of sanding, definitely hook it up to a vac, because that thing there still lets out 5 to 10%, I suppose, of the dust, and that's enough to really get up your nose and stuff your sinuses and stuff your lungs and everything else. So wear a mask if you're going to be using that. If you're going to do a lot of sanding, do yourself a favour, chuck it on the vac. Now when you put it on the vac, screw on your dust port, and then you can just clip it on to any of these sanders. So if you've got a range of them, if you've got the 5 and the 3 for instance, you can just switch between them, nice and easy. Don't need anything different. So if you've bought a range of these, even though they're giving you one of these and one of these and one of these every time, you really only need the one hooked on your vac, and you only need one of these that you've got clipped on your belt. So if you've got the battery clipped on your belt, you can then go, right, I've done my rough sanding, quickly just do some nice sanding. You've got different grits on different sanders. You can just go like that, chuck it on the next one, back to this one again, leave the battery on your belt, no having to sort of bend down and fluff around with other things. Pretty similar to sort of Festool and Mirka, the way they just plug in all their different sanders with both the plug for the power and the dust extraction. The dust extraction is not quite as elegant maybe as some other brands, doesn't swivel, but it does the job and it's nice and quick and simple to use. Are they as good? Are they as high end as Festool and Mirka? Well, no, not really, although I would like to get that Mirka back to see if it cuts as quick as this. This was cutting damn quick, this 5mm orbit one. I'd say the dust extraction was better on the Mirka. Basically use that tool and you can use it all day and it still looks like it's brand new if you've got it hooked up to a good vac. But of course, price wise, I will give you the, I won't tell you the price of this because it's going to be different where you live, and this is sort of, they haven't even been released in most of the world, so the prices might change a bit, but I'll give you the percentage difference. So basically I can buy 4.5 of these for the cost of that one Mirka that I did last night. So if you've seen that review and you've seen the random orbital sander on that, that is 4.5 times the price in this country of this. So you could just about get the whole range of these for the price of that one other sander. So instead of having to change things out like you might have to do on that one, you could buy one of those, leave a certain pad on it, buy one of those, chuck 150 on it if you want, buy a finishing sander as well, and you'll still have money to spare when compared to that Mirka. Although of course you do have to buy a few batteries, but chances are you've already got the batteries, right? I didn't find the cord was annoying, surprisingly. I thought it might have annoyed me a bit, but you've got it hooked up to a vac and everything. You don't really notice. If you're used to sanding stuff, you're used to all that sort of thing anyway. Yeah, it didn't notice. It didn't worry me. I didn't have it hooked on my belt though. I didn't like that so much because I didn't need to. I just didn't. If you were standing up doing vertical surfaces like this back wall or something, then of course I would clip it on my belt, or if you're moving around a large area. But if you're doing a flat surface and you can just plonk this down somewhere, just plonk it down somewhere, you know. Why hook it on your belt? You can just plonk it down and sand away to your heart's content and you barely notice it's there. Now the adapter that comes with it is 1.6 meters long. I think that's what it is, about 1.6 anyway. And there is another one. If you want a longer one, if you want to stick a 8 amp hour battery on this for instance, bung it on the floor and move around a bigger area, you can get a 5 meter long cable. So that will have the battery attachment and the tool attachment and just that 5 meter lead instead of the 1.6. That's an optional accessory. And what about run times, I hear you ask? I'll give you the run time mostly with the 4 amp hour. I found I got about 20 minutes with the 2.5 amp hour. The official numbers I think for the 4 amp hour are about 35 minutes, which seems about right. So that would make it about an hour and 10 minutes for the 8 amp hour battery. That's if we are using the BO001CG. If you're using the 3 orbital rather than the 5 orbital, you will get a bit more runtime. You get an extra 7 minutes out of the 40 volt. And if you're using the sheet sander here, you'll get about an hour and 5 minutes just out of that. So you get over 2 hours with an 8 amp hour battery if you're using this sheet sander. Although, like I said, my favourite, the one I'd use the most, where are you off to, is definitely this one. Now those official numbers are on full whack, pushing down constantly with a 120 grit disc. So for what they are and how good they are, I think they're going to be quite good value actually. It may seem expensive when you compare it to the old school 18 volt, because it's going to be sort of double the price of that, but it's at least 4 times better. It's 4 times quicker, so that's good. Time is money, and comfort, vibration, dust collection, all far superior on the XGT to the 18 volt. So I guess after listening to myself just then, I think these are nice sanders. Yeah, I think this is a good sander, and if I was only going to pick one, it would be this one, the 5mm, because I like getting shit done quick. I don't like pissing about. If I want a nice finish, I'll just stick a nice fine 240, 320, whatever pad on there. I don't do anything finer than that. I'm not doing automotive stuff or anything. If you want to do finer stuff, of course, get the 3mm. But if you want to remove stuff quick on timber and that, then the 5 is good for timber, paint, that sort of thing. So if I can find any links, don't get your hopes up just yet. But if I remember, I'll come back and put some later once these are released in other places, if you're watching this after the release date. But if I can find any affiliate links, I will shove them down in the description. There may be some other links down there to some of these other tools and gloves and bits and pieces. So if you're interested in any of them, have a look down there. And thank you for watching. And I will see you all on another XGT video very, very soon. And trust me, it's another banger. So make sure you're subscribed if you're not, and I will see you again next week. Thanks to these guys for helping me make these videos, and cheers.